So we get to start a new theme for the month. You know, I like to follow themes to kind of keep on a topic so that we can dive deep and dig really into a particular theme. And so as I was contemplating what to share this month, you know, the theme of the month is strength. And I found myself in a lot of conversations over the month with congregants, with family, with friends that were really struggling, losses of people, of jobs, of relationships, trying to understand life, a lot of heavy energy this month. Anybody feel that? Yeah, I have a lot, Kat. Yes, yeah, I see, Alyssa. A lot of things happening there. Seems to be a really heavy energy that we're working through here collectively. And so I thought, I really want to focus on this idea for our power of the month, which is strength. So the theme is really about living into our strength, because strength is not something that we have to find. It's something that we have to engage. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, called it one of our 12 fundamental powers, one of our 12 faculties that we have within us, that it's just a matter of understanding that we have that and tapping into that and expressing. So those of us who are tired or stressed or just overwhelmed really need to kind of find that feeling of strength. And part of it is physical, right? Where we kind of have that physical strength that allows us maybe to deal with life. But it's really more the strength that comes from the spiritual and the emotional that we're talking about here that also drives the physical. So strength for our intensive purposes here for Unity is about the ability to be patient, tolerant, steadfast, and balanced. It's also about drawing in inner peace and stillness to our lives. And it's also about having balance between our thoughts and actions. Now, our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, in The Revealing Word, talked about the metaphysical meaning of strength. And here's what he says. He says, strength is the energy of God, freedom from weakness, stability of character, power to withstand temptation, capacity to accomplish. Strength is physical, mental, and spiritual. All strength originates in spirit. The thought and the word spiritually expressed being the manifestation. So what we're going to do this month and today is really talk about how do we muster that strength? How do we extract it from our divine beings? And how do we use it? And how do we remind ourselves that as spirited beings, as Christed beings, we can do hard things? Anybody going through hard things right now? Yeah. So today we're starting with this idea of the strength of purpose. And really it's also the idea of how strength gives us purpose. Now in the dictionary, if we looked up strength, we'd find that it says the determination to achieve one's goals. But in Unity, in a new thought, we look at things differently. So it's not about that external thing. Yes, there is some sense in accomplishment there. But really for us, this idea of strength is about reason for being. It's a beingness for us. And the question that we're going to explore is, why does purpose matter? And how do we engage and cultivate it? And more so, how are we using our power of strength to create purpose? So why did I start out with purpose? What is the big deal with purpose? Why do we need to look at that? Well, researchers have discovered that a sense of purpose is linked to many, many outcomes, good outcomes across the lifespan for both individuals and organizations. Now, today we're only going to be talking about on the individual level. Let me just give you a few little facts. I'm a factoid person, a researcher really at heart. That was my former life. So let's kind of dig a little bit. Patrick Hill and his Washington University colleagues have found important advantages for more purposeful adults, including better cognitive function and greater longevity. So those that focus on purpose have better cognitive function and greater longevity. Here's something fun. They're more likely to floss their teeth, exercise, and get to the doctor. Why? Researchers suggest that people take better care of themselves when they feel like they have something to live for. Having a purpose also seems to be associated with lower stress levels overall, which then contributes to better health. Now, do some purposes maybe benefit us more than others? And researchers say yes. One study found that young adults with a more pro-social purpose, that is one aimed at helping others, experienced greater personal growth, integrity, and health later in adulthood. This result was also echoed by a 2019 study by Ann Colby and her colleagues at Stanford University. They surveyed almost 1,200 Americans in their midlife about their well-being and what goals were important to them. The researchers found significantly higher well-being among people who were involved in pursuing beyond their self goals compared to those who were focusing on just goals for themselves. So in sum, we can look at all the research that is out there right now, and we know that having purpose really, it staves off stress, it helps us channel our energy, it really helps us to learn and grow. It promotes optimism, it fuels our longevity in life, all of our functions, cognitive memory, lower risk of health, all of these things, and healthy behaviors. In short, it really supports our mental, emotional, and physical health when we have this idea of purpose. It really becomes, from the research standpoint, a cornerstone of what it means to have a happy life. But yet, here's another fact, y'all. 75% of people, according to researchers, have no purpose. That's a tough thing, that people are struggling to articulate what their life purpose is. Do I find anyone here with that? Don't be shy, y'all. Okay, everybody has a purpose. Should I just walk off the stage? No need for this talk today. Well, it's a lot of us that are going through that. You know, when I worked in research, I worked in nonprofit organizations since the time I was 18 years old. And I got the opportunity to do some amazing things, to see my work make meaning in people's lives, working in housing, working in HIV/AIDS, working with youth in foster care. And yet, honestly, no matter how much I saw what my life was doing, what I felt was important, that I was having a purpose, there was something deeply inside of me that felt like, this ain't it. And it was always really troubling to me because I couldn't understand then what was my purpose. And I would do different things trying to figure out, well, could it be this? Or maybe it's that. Or I would explore in my mind things that maybe I could do or I should do. But I always found myself just struggling with not understanding where I was supposed to really be in life. And so Unity helped me really with that, to be able to not necessarily struggle so much and have anxiety about it, but to really kind of dig in and just allow for that patience and use the power of prayer and meditation to keep saying, all right, Holy Spirit, like, I know I'm here to be worked for a certain purpose, and whatever that is, or maybe it is all these purposes, I don't know, but I'm going to have faith, I'm going to trust and know that whatever I'm supposed to do, this is my life's journey. In about 2015, one of my relatives, their child went off to college, and they were a single parent and had a very deep relationship with their child, and had identified themselves as a parent, for 18 years. And that was really their purpose in life, to raise this child. And when the child went off to college, my relative was really struggling. I mean, literally depressed, going on medication, didn't understand herself not being a mom, didn't know how to deal with the daily routine with not having her child there. And I remember talking in several conversations over the months, and I just thought, my daughter had just started high school, and I was sort of in that same boat, being a single mom and having really devoted my whole life. That was my purpose. You know, I decided to organize my entire life to be able to be a mom, to do things that my mom didn't have a chance to do because she was a single parent and struggling and working and all of that. And so when I saw my cousin, I thought, oh, I ain't going out like that. Like, I got to start preparing, I got to start figuring out. And so in that moment, that's when I decided I was going to do the pivot of purpose. So I thought, okay, I need to prepare my life. Now I've got 4 years to leave, y'all. I'll go ahead and make something with them. And at that point, that's when I decided that I would start my training to become a licensed Unity teacher. Because I didn't really even resonate with this idea of becoming a minister. My whole life, my whole time in Unity, I was taking classes. I was, really kind of getting into Unity and New Thought, but yet not really wanting to claim anything in terms of doing that. So I started that, and little by little, I took classes, and then fast forward, I ended up going to ministerial school. And it was in that moment that I understood this was my purpose. Maybe it's not the only purpose that I'll have, but I knew in that moment that that was my life's purpose. But part of that took time, and that took experimentation, and that took faith. I tell you all my story to say that sometimes we struggle with this, but part of it is just letting go and letting God. We know that's cliche, right? But it is. It's taking those steps. Sometimes it really is about divine order and divine timing. It's not the time. Maybe you're not ready to accept your purpose in life. You're not ready to step into it. I see Jeff Fasano out here, and I remember his story. Those of you who don't know, Jeff is an amazing, well-known photographer. His book is on sale in our bookstore. He didn't pay me, y'all, to plug his book. But I remember his story as well. He was, working the corporate life, the humdrum life, and at 40, he decided he was going to take a shift. And he decided he was leaving that life, and that was a deep calling for him to become a creative individual and go into photography. Fast forward, it became the best decision in his life, yes? He's photographed everyone who's anyone in the world. You should buy the book. It's really an amazing book. But it's a testament to what I mean by this. I'm not alone. He's not alone. We're all in that we have to step forward in purpose, in our why, and listen and trust what Holy Spirit is telling us is that why. Because the material may not be there. We may not know anyone in the area that we think we need to move into. We may not have the financial resources. We may not even have the skills sometimes. I want to do this thing, but I don't even know where to start. It is not for us to figure that out. It is at a certain level, obviously, but it's also to trust that if you step forward in purpose, all of that will easily flow. Now, sometimes we get really caught up in our lives. We get caught up in the struggle of life, and we become paralyzed by it. And part of it is, as the research shows, is to step outside of ourselves and to find purpose with each other, in serving others even. If we don't have that purpose, that's where it becomes complicated. And in these times, post-pandemic, it becomes really challenging because we're dealing with an epidemic of loneliness in this country. I mean, the Surgeon General of our country has identified that it is literally a health risk. It is something that we're dealing with. In June 2023, another research, there was a Journal of Nature Nature and Human Behavior that did a meta-analysis of 90 studies. I mean, they looked at 90 different studies and examined the links between loneliness, social isolation, and early death among 2 million adults. And study participants were followed anywhere from 6 months to 25 years. And what they found was that those folks experiencing social isolation had a 32% higher risk of dying early from any cause compared to those who were not socially isolated. It could be to a cause, maybe, maybe not. It could be something to a certain organization. It could be, we know the purpose of religion and spirituality has been well documented about how that creates meaning in folks' lives. There's a documentary on Netflix about centenarians. I can't remember the name of it, but the gentleman who followed all of these countries of blue zones and talks about the importance of purpose, especially purpose that is cultivated by our connection to spirituality in living a long, not just a long life, but a prosperous, healthy, and joyous life. We're in that, trying to figure out what our purpose is. One of the things that I want to flag today, as I said, we get caught up in our struggle. But when we think about people who have really endured things in their life, and then we see that they have become victorious or that they have become survivors, it really inspires in us a sense of awe. But yet, when we think about it, we don't have to experience something so horrendous or so far out for us to know that we have that ability too. The beauty when we learn about people's struggles in life is that it is a reminder that if those people did it, I can too. We have those tools innately in us. You know, one of the most famous books of all time, and this is statistically shown by researchers, Viktor Frankl. Anybody know who Viktor Frankl is? His book, Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. One of his life's work really was about speaking about the ability in the concentration camps that he went through and that he saw in other people as being able to muster up the strength to endure and persevere. And he created a whole kind of therapy. His thing was called logotherapy, about the idea that we could survive if we have meaning. She says, so I'm excited to share some how I got over stories. What our protagonists got over often was the most uncomfortable part, a divine discontent, a divine discomfort within their stories. We must engage our intuitive discernment to see within and beyond the suffering, to glean the deep faith, courage, discipline, determination, wisdom, and love. There's stories for us of examples. This is the work of Viktor Frankl, talking about how folks persevered by having this deep sense of meaning. You know, we sometimes think, oh, I've got this struggle with my partner, child, or with this coworker, or with this friend, or I have this addiction, or I have this health challenge. And I'm not saying those things are important. Hear me when I say that. I am not saying they're not important. But what I am saying to you is that we get so bogged down that we forget who we are, that we forget the capacity of strength that we have to do hard things. We are no different than people who have struggled in previous times. Look, we have survivors of genocide, both past and current, who can speak to surviving unspeakable things. Folks from Sri Lanka, from Chechnya, from Nigeria, from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Darfur, Republic of China, Myanmar, Ethiopia, Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, the United States. But they stand as representations of meaning and purpose. I read recently something about women who went through the genocide that was occurring in Rwanda not that long ago. And they talked about the unspeakable horrors they endured with, with gang rape, with watching their loved ones raped in front of them, with watching mutilation by machete or being chopped up in front of them. I mean, we're talking about like high level horrors that we cannot imagine, and yet they survived. And they talked about why, and they said they had purpose. They gave meaning to their lives in those horrific moments to endure and see. They thought about their children and their families, some of which they hadn't seen and didn't know if they were still alive, but it was that purpose in them, that wanting to be able to know. It was the survival instinct or the purpose of wanting to live to tell the story. It is my job, my life's work, my purpose. Someone has to know what has happened here. And someone has to know and give purpose to the lives of the people whose lives were lost, who are not here. Or they had faith in God and said, I have no idea why this is happening. I have no idea what is going to happen, but I know who I am as a child of God, and I am going to trust that, and I'm going to focus on that. And one of the other things that allowed them to have purpose was helping others, being in community with other women that were going through that same purpose. Many of them hiding in the forest, in the woods, in swamps, just waiting, living life, trying to figure out till all of this blew over. Helping each other, creating community. Viktor Frankl says, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Folks, we can do hard things, but we must have a why. So today I ask you for us to explore as individuals and community our why. Do you feel like what you do and who you are in the world matters? Do you have a sense that your actions are meaningful and contribute to or benefit something that you care about? And do you feel like what you do or contribute actually benefits the world and larger consciousness? These are important questions to ask yourself, because that would also signal the depth and the true faith and the strength of your purpose. I want y'all to take a minute for a second and envision, those of us who are younger, right? Envision your life at 80. And those of us who are already 80 or past 80, envision what your legacy of your life will be. What will you be most proud of? What would you want others to speak of about you? What would bring you joy, or remembering that? What joys did you have? And then, what actions do you need to take today to live authentically into that purpose? It's not easy, because it takes courage. But can you allow yourself to open for God, Holy Spirit, universal allness and oneness, divine mind, whatever you call that energy, that force, allowing it to open you to your purpose? Can you be that open channel of love, which is ultimately really what our purpose is? I want us to affirm today. This is one of Charles Fillmore's affirmations that I love. God is the strength of my life, and I am powerful in every part. God is the strength of my life, and I am powerful in every part. Together, God is the strength of my life, and I am powerful in every part. Now take a minute and hold that affirmation. Feel that affirmation. Realize, connect, and align to that affirmation. Don't just hold it alone in your heart. Let it sweep through your body. God is the strength of my life, and I am powerful in every part. Charles Fillmore said that we know that we are here for a purpose. But what is that purpose? He says to manifest the Son of God, or manifest God. Will you manifest God if you look into the material out there, or will you manifest God by engaging that power within? Purpose comes, we've talked about a lot of different aspects of purpose, but ultimately purpose is about our connection with Spirit. It is about glorifying God. And I don't mean like the God out there, with the white beard and all of that. I'm talking about glorifying ourselves, the expressions of God that we are. It is glorifying that. And when we say God, we're talking about the Godness, the goodness, which is love, which is justice, which is equality, which is joy, which is faith. All of these things that we think of as Godness, that becomes our true purpose. And so we don't know how Holy Spirit will become to use us for those purposes. Some of us will have big purpose, right? We are solving world hunger, and we are solving world peace, and we're doing all of these really big out there grandiose things. But that is not always purpose. How many stories have we heard about people who were doing amazing things in life? Singers, dancers, politicians, athletes, and then their life somehow changed. Our purpose grows as we connect, yes, to God, and we connect to each other as expressions of the divine, as we build connections and we build community. And when we do that sometimes, when we engage and find like-minded people, then we can understand how we have the strength of purpose together. I close by reminding you the questions I asked you. Yes, you matter. Yes, what you contribute matters. Yes, your actions have meaning. Yes, your actions contribute to the world and to creating higher, loving consciousness. Don't get bogged down. Don't get overexerted and anxious because you're not knowing it or feeling it, or there's something that you feel is coming, but you don't know when or how. Keep listening and feeling and honoring and acknowledging those spiritual nudges. And keep praying and meditating and having faith that Holy Spirit is guiding you to your purpose or purposes sometimes, because they shift and change. And have patience, good people, and faith. The most important